I am ready.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, and we're
Calculating.
back. Calculating. It's good, man. After a long time, I had a 3-week road trip. That was exciting as hell. I'm glad to be back. Back to two birds, one mic. Hope y'all are having a great week. How you doing, Mylon?
Oh man, I'm doing good, man. But had a very fun weekend. I also been doing a little bit of traveling. Out in New York, out in Bandon. We met up there. It's been a great month, man. Bit tiring. Busy and everything you could really like ask for.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Yeah, man. It was really nice actually seeing you in Oregon, not in San Diego. That was the first time I think I've seen you not in San Diego. And it's kind of crazy when, I think so. I mean, we went to Vegas, but I guess outside of I guess that's also out of California. Yeah. But, how did you like that? How was Bandon for you?
It's cool.
Yeah.
It was interesting. I mean, the city is very interesting. I think that was my first time ever going to a destination that was not touristy. Like, living in California is just kind of one big tourist population. I've gone to Vegas, I've gone to London, I've gone here. But that was my first time ever going to a place that's like not meant for like
tourism.
And it was very interesting. It was very interesting seeing a town that was small in the first place where everybody knows each other. Everybody's kind of this really close-knit community. It felt very comfortable there. I feel like people are probably very comfortable knowing their neighbors and knowing everyone around them. And it felt weirdly like connected, even though it was smaller,
Big difference. Yeah. And that's actually a good point that you made. I feel like now looking back at it, this whole road trip that I had gone on, we had just stayed in places that were kind of small like that. So now when I'm thinking about it, I'm like, damn, you're right though. Bandon was actually one of the first places I've ever been to that was like that.
Trippy, right?
And it's different. So let me actually tell you this funny story. So we were driving up there and we had stopped at Mount Shasta and we went to the subway, as we do. And
the way.
And I was talking to this person there and I was like, hey, and she was like, I'm actually going to Oregon too. I was like, no way, where are you going? She was like, Bandon.
Oh, what?
Yeah. So, and then she was like,
Really?
oh, Bandon. Like, I think this was actually when we had just stepped into Oregon. And so she was like, yeah, Bandon is this poppin' place. Like, you should totally check out downtown. It's super lit. That's where we went too. It's just so funny because it was like, crazy. Wow, is that what's lit up here in Oregon?
Yeah, right. No, it was like you go into the town, there's maybe like 3 people.
Yeah, very short.
So
let's talk about that actually. So, talking about pros and cons of the two different things. I think one thing I was able to kind of experience and see a lot is what is it like to live in a smaller town? So I'll give you some anecdotes that happened. We stopped in this one place in Iowa, I believe, at this pizza place. And we've been talking to all the waitresses, anybody who's been helping us. We've just tried to been like, how's it living here? Like, what do you, and she was basically telling us how like living in a small town, she came from California too, is kind of like live like in high school again, where like everybody's involved in everyone's life. So there's like pros and cons to like community, where basically comes down to that again, like how close knit do you want your community to be,
Right.
And so I guess the smaller it is, the more involved everyone is in each other's lives.
Right.
But the con of living in a place like LA, any of these big cities, is you just know nobody.
Yeah.
At all points, are you just like, I feel like it's much easier to feel like you're meaningless in larger cities. Just because every interaction you have with people, one, it's extremely replaceable. You're very replaceable. And two, you're just never going to remember anything. It's just like, you're not going to remember names, people. But in a smaller city, you have one plumber. You are extremely crucial for that entire city. Every single person has a role where it's not that replaceable.
Exactly. And like, you can look at like the effects of like having communities in like a lot of different domains, and it's crucial. Like, for example, on average, Christians are happier than the average person, right? And you could, one might look at that and say, oh, that's because of the beliefs, whatever. But actually, it's not. It's literally when you isolate for the community aspect, the happiness goes back to standard. So like, what makes that the case in that correlation there? It just literally has to do with community, like just having somewhere you feel connected to, somewhere that because if you do derive your meaning from the others around you, and being connected to others around you like we do, and you live in a place where there's a million people and you feel connected to nobody, one, it's like, okay, why there's so many people, there must be something wrong with me if I can't be connected to all these people.
Exactly.
And two, and just not being connected with them in itself, I think that is like damaging. And like you said, it does lead to this level of meaningless. Opposed like, yeah, when you are connected to the community, like you have your place, like you have your part. And because your brain is not thinking about the whole world, like that's all that really matters to you is your place in that community, you know?
Yes. You said something really beautiful there. I was just stuck on that. You said, since you're surrounded by so many people, you feel like something is wrong with you because you're not connected to all of them. I think that's a really good point. In that, even if let's say I live in a city of 10,000 people and I have a great connection with 30 people, I still see 10,000 people. So I'm like, okay, what's wrong with me? I'm not connected to everybody. I think that's a great point, as opposed to, let's say I'm in a city of 30 people, even though the same number is probably the same, the objective number of how many people I'm connected with, there it actually feels like more of like a holistic thing.
Exactly. And I think like, I remember talking to, our roommate Tom about this and asked him, I was like, oh, would you ever be able to live in like a city like this or a little town? He was like, no, I don't think so. But, I changed up the question and I was like, well, what if it was like really diverse? Like, what if it was a little, because, that's probably one of the issues with those kind of towns, very monotonous, typically, full white or full this, but if it was a really diverse town, let's say 30 people, but a lot of diversity there, like, would you be able to do that? That would be so fucking tight. Like that would actually maybe be like one of my ideal situations, like a diverse town, good amount of, black, white, Indian, this, that. And it's just a little community where like, everybody knows each other. Everybody's just like good vibes. Like that would be like fire. Like, I don't know, man. I would actually be very down for that.
So another anecdote and story. So we came across these couple of like, I think it said unincorporated cities. I don't know exactly what that is. But when Amr and I were driving through just tons and tons of land, just land everywhere, we were like, why don't we just take like 1,000 people we fuck with? We don't even need an island. I know everyone talks about like, oh, if I had the money, I'd buy an island, start a new society. You don't need to do that. There is so much land. I don't even know if it's part of a city. And even if it's a part of a city, there'll probably be 10 people there. If you just brought 1,000 of your homies, move to that place, those 10 people would probably move. And second of all, you could just start there. And I feel like, what you're saying is completely possible. Taking 30 or 40 people you feel like would make a great community, because you need your doctors, you need your engineers, you need your plumbers, you need your teachers, you need everybody. But you just find people who are excellent at that and just move somewhere. Like there's so much land, you could just start your own city.
But then you get into two very interesting situations, which is one, you now have to convince everybody to do that, right? Yeah. And then at the point in which you do that, you've now created a cult. Like, that's what like cults are, right? It's like somebody being like, hey, like we should take this commune, which is interesting because people in cults like really fuck with it, Yeah. They're like, oh, this is dope. Like, we do this, we do that. Like, I have my whole family here. Not that it's a necessarily negative thing, but like, essentially, I believe that's kind of like a cult.
It is. No, it would be a cult. Yeah, you're right. You're right. But I guess like you're not saying like you can't join. It's just like I guess is starting your own city. Like when America started, were they starting a cult then? Like when they just hopped on the boats and were like, all right, we're coming over to America.
They were like, follow me here. This is what I believe is correct. And this is what we're gonna live under. And like, I don't know.
I guess so. Yeah.
However you define a cult, I don't even know what the fuck makes a cult. Christianity is a cult. All religions are cults.
Yeah,
cults aren't necessarily negative.
Yeah. I feel like that word just has a lot of
negative attributions to it. But yeah, man, I feel like you got a lot of really interesting like experiences, like traveling across the fucking country. Like for those who do not know, Gautam traveled from California to DC, literally drove across the country. Like, what were some of the biggest lessons you got in doing that? What did you learn? What was it like meeting a bunch of people? What was it like literally traveling the country? Like, how do you feel now being on the other side?
Yeah, so, I want to preface before I start that with saying that, I feel like I learned so much, but never actually took the time to really think about it. So that's why I'm really excited to record this, because I feel like as we start talking, things are just going to start clicking. So this is the first thing I wrote down. I was like, okay, I'm going to start here, and then probably I'll think of 30 other things as we talk.
Great.
So I went with one friend, Amr, and he came with me the whole trip.
That's crazy.
I think this was one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever experienced in my life. And I it's like tearing. Okay, so let me explain a couple of things. One, I think you can make it work with anybody. Given enough time and open-mindedness, any gender, religion, anything, given open-mindedness, that's key. I think people can just learn what other people like, what they don't like, their tells, their, and figure out the way to work. When I'm 100% sure Umar had a lot of things he hated about me when we left on this trip, and there were things that he would do that annoy me. In those 2 weeks, 3 weeks, he's still with me now. I feel like we learned each other so well. And like, I understood what he liked, what he understood, the way I talked, like the things that annoy each other very quickly. Like, it was easy to just work those kinks out. And it was just so beautiful to me to just realize, like, damn, like, given that level of intimate connection where you're like sleeping together, eating together, doing every single thing together, it's just like you just learn somebody really well, like what works. And I was just like amazed on like how beautiful it was, because not for a single second did I feel alone. So what that taught me is that it's not about woman, it's not about sex, it's about that intimacy of knowing that you can
Absolutely.
trust someone. Like,
Absolutely.
not in those 2 weeks was I like, oh, I wish it was a woman here instead of Umar. Like, not a single time did that thought come across my head. He wasn't fucking me, so why didn't that thought come, and it was just like, it just doesn't matter. It's that idea of like someone who like cares and like is there to like go experience things, like you protect each other. It's like, it was just like dope to like feel that. I was like, I never thought I could develop that type of like partnership with another
Yeah, no,
person.
intimacy is intimacy, man. At the end of the day, it's like, I don't think that, I feel like a lot of times when people talk about intimacy, it is kind of in the context of like a relationship. But I feel like that's just a type of intimacy, and that's just intimacy from one individual. But it's like, and I've talked about this with, my girlfriend many times, which is like, I'm like, yeah, like I need intimacy from other people, like I can't just get intimacy from you. Like, there's different kinds of intimacy, and like, it is such a vast and important feeling that I feel like, ideally you'd like to have it with all your connections, but to be able to get that from another individual and like experience it in its pure sense, I feel like it's filling in its own sense, to where like I've had times where like, for example, Bree and I are like, I think about the context of what I'm saying right now. Bree and I have been pretty much in situations where we're like planning to engage in some type of sexual activity, and we get so caught up in the intimacy of our convos that like that overtakes the wanting of like having sex. And like I do think intimacy is arguably like the most powerful like that kind of intimacy that you share with another person. Maybe it'd be beneficial to find that, but I think it's the most like beautiful thing you can share with another person. I do believe it is the most filling as well.
It was, wow, thanks for sharing that. That's yeah, no, I can't pinpoint it, because it was just like, I really strongly feel like I can do that with like anybody, it wasn't anything specific, but like, as long as people are willing to like be better and just, constantly.
That's the huge part. Like you said, open-mindedness, like, because that's when it doesn't work. When you have two people who are just stuck in their ways, that's when it does not work at all. And that is like huge to, have two people who are very open-minded, because I feel like that's where so many people get stuck, where it's like they believe that who they are is so justified and so correct that there's everyone else is the problem. They're not willing to actually like change anything about themselves. And then you can't make anything work like that.
Yeah. So on that note, I was in Yellowstone and we were just looking at the stars, and I was sitting there and I woke up and I was I was really just like pondering, like, why do I feel lonely? Like, what is it that I miss about, okay, so here's something cool. I'll actually connect it first. So we were in Iowa. So Iowa or Minnesota, we were camping there one day, and we had a fire. We set a fire, and I read this thing online. And I was like, all right, it sounds kind of therapeutic. I wrote a bunch of things I wanted to let go, and I threw it into the fire, and it was actually very therapeutic. It was nice. I felt like I let a lot of just baggage go. And in that time, as well as another time, I was thinking about people I like, quote unquote, loved or whatever in the past, and I was like, what was it about these people that I miss now? Like, why do I want this in my life? And I came to a huge realization. I don't miss being loved, I miss loving another. I really, really miss giving my all to something else, going out of my way and being kind for someone, like actually like caring about someone else to the point where I'm like, I would miss out on something for you because I care about you. I miss that. I don't miss being cared about. because
Mm,
I have that. My parents care about me, my friends care about me. Like I am loved right now more than I've ever been loved in my life, but there still
mm,
seems like there's some sort of lack. And I
mm,
finally pinpointed what it was. It was like, I want to care about others. I don't want to be.
mm.
So I realized that can be done. I can just start actually caring about things, animals, people, trees, everything. Like I have that in myself to genuinely start caring. And I don't know, that was just like a really big like just realization for me in that.
Wow. Well, like, wow, that's a very interesting perspective, and I don't think one I've ever heard before. So, I kind of want to, hear more about that and go deeper into that. Like, what kind of led you to that like understanding? Like, what were the things that you kind of put together that led you to? It's not about necessarily getting love; it's about giving love.
Hmm. Okay, well, okay, so I was thinking about my ex and I was just like, okay, well, sometimes I'm like, what about, I feel like when you think about times when you're in a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
there's like this feeling of like just pleasure, like nostalgia, where you're like, oh, that was just such a great period in my life, whatever. Um, and anytime like you're talking to somebody like that you care about, I feel like for me at least, I always look at those times with like it's like I'm on a drug, like when someone I
Right,
like,
right.
someone is just like, and so I was just thinking, I was like, okay, what specific about those situations, instead of like actually trying to go a little deeper and be like, what about it is that, do I like about those situations? And because I feel like, I mean, and yeah, and I guess what I said earlier, it just came back to the fact that like I am loved currently. Like it's these people love me the same amount, a partner would love me, but I don't love them necessarily the same amount I would love a
So you feel like
partner.
that's what's lacking,
That's
like
what's lacking.
you're getting the love that like you maybe have gotten, say in a
Yes,
relationship, but you're not giving the love that you give at that moment.
exactly. And
Mm.
and I feel like I
And what was
want
the
to.
block there? What is the block where like you feel like you can't give that level of love
No,
or aren't?
I
Excuse me.
can. I can. I just feel like I was choosing not to.
And why is that?
I guess out of like a sense of like vulnerability, like not wanting to like my something. Okay, so I guess if I really wanted to get into it,
Mm.
like my parents very much always espoused this, like a lot of my grandpa actually was like cheated out of a lot of money. So like my
Okay.
parents very much espouse like always be careful, never like be taken advantage
Right.
of. So I'm
Right.
always like very much like, okay, I never want to take more than I give. I very much like hate being the person that takes more than I give, but I never want to give more than I take and I get.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm always like make sure it's even, status quo, even
Mm.
to where like I can never just give, without like counting or, in somewhere in the back of my head being like, I did that, I did that, I did that. Just like
Right.
freely giving just because like
Because then you
you're
have fear you're getting taken advantage of.
exactly. Or just like, yeah. And then I guess eventually that just becomes like habit and you're like, I don't want to do it,
Right. Right. No, I
And
totally
so,
can relate to that.
and so now like I just, after that whole thing, I was just like, wow, like I think the way for me to find, real happiness and just not even happiness, but just contentment in being alone is like loving everyone and everything.
I want to like really, speak on what you said earlier because I feel like it's really, really powerful. And I think, you're saying this and I'm like, wow, I feel the exact same way. I just wonder how many people really have this huge fear of being taken advantage of, and how often does it like disable people from being able to like fully love others around them? Because I have the exact same thing, bro. Like I really do. For me, it came from kind of a different place, which was I got taken advantage of a lot as a kid because I really wanted connection from others. So I would kind of do whatever I could to like get connection. And a lot of that times it was like me crossing my boundaries to be accepted by other people. And I would let them take advantage of me because at the end of the day, it's better to be taken advantage of and be connected with others than to just be alone. So that's kind of what I would do all the time. And now I kind of sit in this place of like, I don't, I'm constantly scared of like people taking advantage of me, and it limits my kindness, it limits my selflessness, and it limits my ability to love in a lot of different ways. And
Mm,
at the end of the day, I think it comes back to like a lot of fear, and just having a very strong like protector up like at all times, and not being
mhm,
able to like understand that like if I am giving to others, that I'm never really losing. um but it's kind of that scarcity mindset, because like if you're contributing to others, like you're making a difference in some way, shape, or form, and like you can't really control whether or not someone wants to take advantage of that or manipulate you.
mm,
Like you're still getting something out of that, at the end of the day. But it's like we have this view of like well, contribution is not good enough. Like I have to be getting equal back or the same form back of something, or else I'm now losing. You know.
And that mindset is just so destructive because what ends up happening is you just don't give that much.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just always like guards up, like you just, I don't know, you just can't connect with human beings on just a deeper level, you know?
Yeah, and it's like what you're giving them, like knowing that you made a contribution at some level should be enough.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like that doesn't that's not enough for you. It's like what you need is like I need that back, you know?
And like why? Like the question becomes why?
Right.
Because most of the times you can just like, I guess like the way I've always thought about it is like there's always this like theoretical place of where I'm just going to be in need, but I've never been there. So it's like I don't even need to keep expecting that I'm going to be there one day. Like, oh, I'm just, my arms and limbs are all going to just fall off and I'm going to need someone to feed me. Who's going to do it? Like I don't know.
I feel like a lot of it comes from one, individualism, and two, hierarchical thinking. Like I think that like I remember listening to that Buddhism podcast, secular Buddhism.
Mm-hmm. Fire.
And yeah, absolutely. And you put me onto that. And he was talking about this concept of unconditional joy and unconditional like suffering. And pretty much he was talking about this like Zen koan about this dude who like this like blind man's like listening to him talk, and he pretty much ends up telling him that like every time he like is grateful for somebody, or every time he's like sad, or tell somebody like, you know, good job, or, you know, I'm sorry to hear that, like he's the only person who like when he hears his voice it feels genuine. But other times when he hears other people say I feel sorry, like I'm sorry to hear that, what's actually behind the voice is like haha, like you got fucked over. And then when they tell people like good job, what's actually like in the voice is like, ah, fuck, like I'm now like behind. And so the concept in the podcast was just unconditional joy and unconditional you know, sad, whatever. And it's like, why would you do such a thing? And it's because at the end of the day, in Buddhism, we're all connected, we're all one. So giving to another, there's no like I'm losing anything. Like it is the same as giving to the self, because I am you and you are me fundamentally. So like you want to give to others as much as possible because you're giving to yourself in some form. And then beyond that, when you live in a world that is very individualistic and very hierarchical like ours, then giving to another now puts you behind. And so it's like, I need to be given this back so I can be back here, or at least ahead. So it's like, we never want to be like, you know, I feel like all of us view life as this like race that we're running. And it's like, if we give somebody, you know, a little head start, we give somebody this, like we're now behind and then we're going to lose. And we don't want to lose this like imaginary race that we've created.
Damn, that's a very, wow, nice. Yeah, I guess like I'm trying to, the race analogy is a good one.
Race, not a sprint. Marathon, not a sprint.
Like I've been trying to really live by that today. Like today I was at the museum, I saw this couple and they look really good and it was a really good angle. So I was like, hey, just give me your phone. I'm gonna take a picture of you. Like
that's fire.
And like I've been really like going out of my way to be kind. But I think sometimes at the back of my head, there's this tiny voice that's like, maybe you'll get something out of this. It's never like true. Right. Like, and I guess that's what I want to work towards. So, you know, I've been trying to like be more giving with my food. Hey, you want to try some? I think that's a big
one, bro. Yeah. That's a big one. That's honestly a fucking big one.
Yeah. You know, that I've been trying to like, you know, hold doors open. That's a simple one. Take pictures of people when they look good. Tell people that their clothes look good. They look good. You know, I feel like there's a lot of like,
compliments are huge.
Yeah. There's just like small
compliments are a good one. Cause there's like, you literally lose nothing out of complimenting.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't know why people are so scared to compliment other people.
The things that you lose is like, you might like, some people are just mean. So this is the other thing that I learned. Okay. Like in my trip, I had almost a perfect record with kind people. We had one dude who was an asshole. Like this guy was just absolute asshole. Like he came up to us and he just sat down and he was like,
you should say hi to the podcast, bro.
You guys in it?
Yeah. Say hi.
Yeah. Hey, say what's good.
Hey, what's up, Gotham?
Hey.
What's up, my guy? Are you in DC now?
Yeah, I just moved in. It's my room.
For sure. I'll let you guys finish the podcast.
Thank you.
It's an editor, right?
Yeah. You're in it, dog.
Okay, so
first guest appearance.
Where was I? Yes. Okay, so this guy was an asshole. He came, sat next to us, and he was like, "You guys are from California?" We're like, "Yeah." He was like, I heard California is going down the shithole right now. Everyone's moving out because all that robbery that's happening. Yeah. And then she was telling the cashier, he was like, yeah, you hear about that in California? Like basically if you steal anything under $999, like they do nothing to you. They can't do anything to you. And she was like, whoa, that sounds like highlight. And he just made it seem like California was like dying or something. But the whole point is he came, sat next to us, talked to us about California, and then just started shitting on it. Like just, it was like, you could just very much feel that his intentions was very mean. But he was the only individual out of the hundreds that we met that even gave any sort of like vibe like that. And
that's crazy.
You know what that took me some time is for the next couple of hours I was just like, man, maybe people do suck. And I feel like you know, we've talked about this earlier too, sometimes where it's like your negative experiences stick so much, you know, just deeper than all the positive ones. And it's like, I was just like, okay, I was like, all right, I'm a math person. Think about it. You had 99 experiences with people who were great and one that sucked. It's just like, that should not just sway your entire belief, you know, where it's like a 1 or 0. And it was just like, that comes back to what we were talking about earlier, either with being vulnerable. It's like, if you're vulnerable and you're kind to 100 people, yeah, you will most likely be taken advantage of once or twice. But you have to pick. Would you rather just not be kind at all and just be to yourself and never get taken advantage of, or be kind to those 98 other people when you get taken advantage of a couple times? Like, which one do you pick? You know?
Absolutely. And to some extent, like, everybody takes advantage of somebody, you know? Like, there's no situation are people always, you know, equally getting and giving. And I think that, like, that's kind of like the system that kind of is supposed to work on, you know. It's kind of like the unspoken rule. It's like everybody helps everybody, and it's like, you know, everything kind of works out, you know, like this person helps this person when they're down, this person helps this person when they're down. And I think at the end of the day, like we've all been ungrateful to somebody who is very, very selfless to us. You know, we've all had the experience where someone is ungrateful towards us for doing something really kind. You know, like I know for a fact I'm not the most selfless person I know. I don't even think I'm close. You know, I've been very, very thankful to have a lot of like really selfless people in my life. And like, you know, all I can hope is that like, one, I learn from those people, and two, like, you know, I will do that for somebody one day, maybe who's not more selfless, and like that will inspire them to maybe be more selfless, because like, that's really what I feel like I get from being like around like really selfless people. Like they just make me want to be more selfless. You know, I'm like, fuck, like maybe I did not reciprocate what you gave to me, but maybe the way I reciprocate that is not towards you, but towards another individual, you know?
Okay, very cool. Yeah. Kind of just like observe, like, you know, taking, giving over a long period of time as opposed to just looking at that one specific interaction. Like, or like that one relationship with that one person.
Because like, you really never know, you know, it's like what your action could do to another individual. And I also want to say that, you know, it's cool that that person on that trip was like, it didn't sound like he was an asshole toward you guys. It sounds like he was just an asshole like about California for some reason, you know?
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, that's better than us. That's true. That's better than it. But that's true. Yeah.
That is still pretty fucking tight.
So yeah, let me actually get to that next. I love America now. Not gonna lie. Like, I honestly had such an excellent experience. Like, I was really scared going into this. I was like, okay, like, how are we gonna find places to stay? That's number one. Sure. For anyone who's interested in traveling, you can camp everywhere for free.
That is crazy. The fact that you did that is nuts.
Every state for free. Just Google free camping sites near X. You will find it. We normally found it near like big parks, big like forests. But it was amazing. Like, what country can say that? Like, we just have free camping everywhere, and it's not like you're actually in the middle of the woods, like some sus place. Like, it's definitely pretty woody, but it is also like relatively safe. You know, you're going to be like only like 100, 200, 300 feet from the road. Like, you're not like actually in the cuts, you know?
Right.
Like the fact that they have all these facilities available for us is just awesome, you know? Not only that, were people so kind to us. Like, bro, 2 brown guys traveling the Midwest and stuff, like, you would think we'd get screwed. No, people are really nice. Like there was an old woman who gave us money to play pool for free. All our waitresses and stuff, like, were talking to us, friends with us. Yeah, like, people were really nice. Like, that's crazy. I was honestly really surprised. Like, everyone was like 2 brown guys traveling the country. Like, that's sus, you know?
Yeah, but, no, I was waiting to hear about some, you know, negative experience that would happen somewhere. I mean, one, you're in the fucking woods, or, you know, wherever, which, you know, obviously from my lack of experience in that type of traveling sounds very sus to me, or dangerous, you know, which I'm sure maybe it was probably a lot less scary than it seems, and, you know, obviously interacting with individuals from across the world or across America, must have been very like, I'd be very fucking scared to say the least. But like, you know, hearing your experience has been like, obviously kind of like, I feel like we feel like we are not in any kind of illusion, you know? Like we look at someone like in North Korea and we're like, wow, they're fucking brainwashed, bro. Like they have no clue what's going on outside the world. But like we're the exact same way living in California. We're the exact same way living inside our liberal circles. We're the exact same way living inside everything. You know, like you are pretty much brainwashed until like you go out there and like experience shit for yourself and you can actually like make like more conclusive realizations about the areas themselves, like from your own experience. Other than that, you're just hearing shit from like other people or something you read or like, you know, probably some kind of biased ass source. But I do want to say, I think something for me that has almost been like enviable. And I want to like really, I think when I hear about your trip, something that like, when I'm like, fuck man, this sounds like the coolest part that like, I'm like, man, I want this so bad, is like all of the like socialization and like socializing that you got and through that trip. Like, I just feel like from how you sound now, it almost seems like you're comfortable talking to everybody. Like that's a fucking superpower, bro. Like I envy that. Like tell me about that. Like how much do you feel like that traveling around America and like talking to everybody from different creeds, places, you know, religions, races, this, people in the woods, people in cities, like how did that change your ability to socialize?
Okay, we're back. Technical difficulty. But yes, I just wanted to say thanks for asking that question. I feel like growing up, one thing I always was like, okay, you have to ask questions. You have to ask questions. No one wants to hear what you have to say, which always made it really hard to be a conversationalist because it's like I'm asking questions, but the person you're talking to actually knows nothing about you. So one thing I've noticed is one of my friends, he's an excellent conversationalist. No matter who he talks to, people are interested in what he has to say immediately. And I always wondered why. Because he talks about himself. When he talks about himself to me, I'm always trolling him because I'm just like, oh, okay. Because I know he's always just talking about himself. So I always troll him for that. But when other people meet him for the first time, that's how people get to know something about you. It's like the question that comes up into anyone's mind is, why should I talk to you? Like, what's so special about you that I want to talk to you? And so you have to share some things about yourself. So I feel like now when I tell people, hey, like I'm on a road trip. Hey, I went to Mexico. Hey, I went to Hawaii. Hey, you know, blah, blah, blah. It's like people are now actually interested to hear what I have to say. And I feel like that's really been like making conversating with people where they actually want to talk to me way easier, as opposed to just be like, oh, like, I'm attractive. Like there's not much to me. Like I don't have much to say. You know, I feel like now like the conversations are just a lot more enticing because it's like they're invested. They actually want to hear what I have to say. Therefore, like from there on, the conversation is simple. Once they're hooked, then the rest is just being a nice person. You know what I mean?
So do you have like, say you were like talking to somebody,
yeah,
and they were like, hey, what are some tips you have for, you know, conversing more effectively with strangers? Like what would you say is kind of like your go-to? Like do you have like 3 fun facts that you kind of just have about yourself that you say and then you ask them a question? Like what is like the structure that you've kind of like built from that realization?
I feel like even in the call, I was working in a call center for a couple of years. I feel like one thing I've always been kind of good at in my life is like building rapport, like actually like I never have anything memorized. I try to make each, because I mean, I feel like one thing I really like doing is like extracting whatever knowledge I can from any person. So like I feel like I ask questions that I don't like just keep repeating. So I don't say the same stuff over and over again. But normally, like I feel like one thing that's really been helping me recently is just saying like, I'm new here. Like when you ask someone else for their advice, all of a sudden their brain's ticking and they're like, oh, this person's valuing what I have to say. Let me think. You know, I'm like, oh, like, you know, I'm new here. Like, what's some good places to eat? Oh, like I'm new here. Like, what are some great places to see? And then they're like, oh, where are you from? Oh, I'm from California. Oh, California. Like X. And then another conversation. It's like, oh yeah, we just drove by Yosemite, or we just drove by, you know, Yellowstone. Oh, okay. It's just like, they're like, when you say something interesting, people want to talk about it. It's just being interesting is hard. That's the hardest part.
Yeah.
But if you're just doing interesting
definitely,
stuff, then it's like really easy, actually, you know?
Right. And so what do you, okay, here's another question. You know, I feel like I'm somebody who suffers with a lot of like social anxiety. Like my brain views social situations as dangerous, and I create this like illusion of like others being like dangerous and not wanting to talk to me. And this conversation is going to get boring. It's going to get uncomfortable, blah, blah, blah. And it, you know, it seems like you've done a really good job, especially on this trip, of kind of like, you know, powering through that. So like, what do you feel like, have you like changed like the way you view socializing? Have you just done it so much now that it's just become easy? like what are some like things that you feel like now, because it kind of seems like you can just go up to somebody and like talk to them now. Like what do you think you've kind of like developed in your mind to help you do that?
I'm scared every time. Every time this whole trip, I was so scared. I was like, oh no, I don't know what's gonna happen. But then another part of my head was like, you just don't know. Like so many interesting conversations that happened. Like I told you, right? Like there was this one time we needed firewood and we didn't have anything for a fire. And Amr was like, honestly, let's just go ask those people over there. I went to a random campsite with these two really white people, and I was like, kind of like, oh shit. And I just asked them, and they were so nice. They came, they brought food, we had a campfire, everything.
Wow.
And it's like, it's just
That's
like
so crazy. You guys like kicked it with them?
Yeah, we kicked it with them. Like they were so cool.
That's
They
so
gave us
wild.
like walking tacos, like just out of nowhere, you know, like it was just like,
wow.
You just
like walking tacos?
Yeah, it's cool. You crush up Doritos, and then they made like all this meat and cheese, and then you put it in the Doritos bag, you mix it all together, and you just eat it with a spoon. It was so good.
That sounds absolute fucking heat.
It was so good, yeah. But
that
like,
sounds fire.
Yeah, and like you know, like one thing that I kept telling myself when I was scared is I was like, you don't know what will happen from this conversation. Maybe this is the coolest person in the world. Just screw it. Just ask. And I think, you know, you mentioned this earlier too, like not giving in terms like expecting something back. I think conversating, not expecting anything out of it is huge. I'm still working on that. I have a really hard time with that, but I'm getting better at it, where I'm just like talking to the person for that 5 seconds. I'm not expecting a number. I'm not expecting us to hang out for the rest of our lives. I think, okay, sorry, I don't like monologuing, but I'll say one thing, because this is something that I learned really strongly this year. This whole year of traveling, I met so many people, and I've learned to let go. Like I've learned, like there are dope people in the entire world everywhere. You meet them and you let go as soon as it's done. Like I feel like what makes it hard is when you try to hold on. Like you're always like, no, oh, you're cool. I need to hang out. Give me your number. Give me your Instagram. I want to talk to you for every day for the rest of your life. When you just meet cool people and you're like, okay, you were super cool. Thank you for hanging out with me for this day. I wish you the best of luck in life. And like, that's it. And then if it just happens to be you run into them again and again, it's lit, you know. But I feel like that going out of your way to keep people is like, that makes each interaction so much more stressful, because you're like, I need them to like me, so they hang out with me again. I need them to like me. But if you're just like, all right, it's just this 10-minute conversation, it's just today, and after this I don't care, then you can just be so much more true to yourself. And so
definitely, it's like harnessing the power of like, you know, something being temporary.
Yes.
Like understanding that, and like not in a bad way.
Yes. Like it's beautiful.
A lot of people might be like, well, it's pointless if this isn't going to, you know, continue on. But like essentially, like it's not, you know?
Yes. Like
those people can impact your life, like how those people did yours.
Yes. Like that's all there is to these interactions. What I realized, like at the end of the day, your life is just about you. You know, there's society, all that stuff matters, but in your head, it's just you versus the world. So like all these other people are kind of just like, they make life better, but at the end of the day, the final battle you got to be is yourself. You know, and it's like,
absolutely,
until that's being like, all this other stuff is just outside, like it's external. Like I have to beat myself.
Absolutely. No, 100%. I think it's just like, you know, so I think that's very powerful, you know, like truly understanding that like you do not know. Like I feel like so often, you know, it is, you know, we have this like weird thing in the brain where like cynicism just becomes the truth. It's like, oh, this person is a bad person. This person's gonna do some sketchy. This person is this, like all these like things that we create in our brain about other people, because they're negative. For some reason, they seem more real, and we don't ever like look at another individual and be like, wow, this person could like really like, you know, make my road trip so much better. Like if you told somebody that versus you told somebody like, yo, this person can do something sketchy, people would pick the sketchy option as the more realistic one 9 times out of 10. But like truly understand, like you do not know, like, and you know, they're like, this could go really well. And like from your trip, it sounds like it's actually the case that people are a lot more positive than not. Like it's not only that you do not know, but like if you took like the data into account, like it seems like you kind of know that people are probably gonna be a little bit more positive, or you have a better, there's a stronger likelihood that people will be more positive and helpful, you know?
And here's a funny thing. We not only experienced that in the woods and stuff, we found this random Airbnb in Chicago, and we stayed in Southside Chicago. We were actually in the cuts, like as cuts as it possibly gets in Chicago.
Crazy.
It was pretty
That's
funny.
where my dad grew up. That's wild.
Oh, wow. And people were so nice there too. Like there were definitely some like weird things that were going down for sure. Like just things that you wouldn't normally see. Like we just saw a bunch of people like, you know, just like either they were like fighting on the roads, or people were like crying with babies. It was just like it's just kind of funny. It was, but like when we went to get food and like talk to some of the neighbors and stuff, like everyone was really nice there too, you know?
Wow, that's fucking
Like,
awesome.
I don't know. Like, I don't know. Maybe I have like, maybe I got lucky. That's possible. Like maybe everything happened just coincidentally. That's also possible. But I don't know. I really do think
Maybe, or maybe people take one person's bad experience from like their cousins, brothers, sisters, uncle, and then like generalize that as like reality.
yes. Yeah.
Like you said, like we take the negative thing and make it way more true than not. Something I was experience that I had dealing with like social anxiety in relation to all this traveling is like, I was in New York recently, and New York can be very congesting and very constricting. And, I will say New York feels like a theme park all the time. Like no matter where you are, like you're just at a theme park, bro. Like it's so crazy. Like I've never in my life seen so many people out and about. Like you're walking and you're just crowded. Like it's fucking crazy. Like everywhere you are, there are people. Like it's so nutty. And for me, I have this like, as I think most people do, I think it's just a fucking side effect of our like gravitation towards like isolation and like the slow degradation of like relationships between like humans. Like I feel like people are just becoming a lot more like cynical towards each other like over time, and I'm also a victim of that. So like I tell myself a lot of times like I fucking hate people. I'm like I don't want to be surrounded by people, and like people annoy me, like blah blah blah. It's a story running in my head pretty often, right? But it's not a practical one. And so I was out in New York, and I was like walking and just fucking people everywhere, bro. And I was like, damn, like I could like sit here all day and be like, man, fuck everyone here. Or I could just like actually try and like enjoy being surrounded by so many people. So at some point in time, I kind of started telling myself something. And, I was walking with, my girlfriend, and she was like really, really getting overwhelmed by like everybody around her. And she was like, dude, they're just like annoying. Like there's so many people here, like blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, like honestly though, like at the end of the day, like I think what is so fucking cool, and like this is what I've been telling myself, at least in New York, that was really helpful, was like, I was like all of these people around you, like you guys all had like won this like crazy ass lottery of like being alive, and like so many things like came together for this like super unique circumstances of you guys sharing like the same space and time at the same place in the world at the exact same time. And like that is so fucking beautiful and cool, and like that's something you guys all have in common. That's honestly really fucking dope. Like you guys are all like brothers and sisters in relation to like sharing this space on this planet at this time in this location. And like that's so fucking awesome. Like, and when you die, like what will be how you'll be remembered and how the world will be remembered is by this picture of like these people who like shared this picture with you. Like that's fucking awesome. So like that's like, I don't know, something I kind of started telling myself about.
Wow, that's very cool. Like, that's very, very, very cool.
Yeah, I was just like, like these are my people. These are literally my people, bro. Like when I die, these people are coming with me, like for the most part, like dead ass. Like these are the people who will also die. And then people go on to remember this period in time where we just all happen to be here at the exact same fucking time. Like wow, yeah. That's something to celebrate. It's not something to like, demonize about each other. It's wow. Not that we're crowding each other's space. It's that we're all getting to share each other's space. And that's so fucking awesome.
I like that.
Like we are the traffic. I was looking at Brie. I was like, they're not the traffic. Like you're the traffic. Like me and you are the traffic, like no one else is the traffic. Like we're all the traffic,
I really like that. So, actually, it humanizes other people to be equals.
Exactly.
To yourself.
Which like is why I have this fucking tattoo Sonder, as you can see here. And, I try and remember that as much as possible, because it's just very important to remember that, like, you're not the main character. Like, you're just a character in this fucking story, Arguably, probably not even close to a main one, So it's like,
yeah, like realistically, yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's a very cool, and you can only have the opportunity to remember what you just said when you are surrounded by tons of people. Like I remember like when I was in Vegas, like that was something that was just, when we were in Yellowstone, it was completely packed. I did not have I was too hungry to think like how you did, but that I wish I had that, that struck in my head at that point. Because then it becomes like kind of beautiful in a way. It's not like you're not annoyed by people.
And dude, and I think it was arguably maybe, who knows, we'll see how it goes into the future. But all I can say is like, it might be the most powerful tool I feel like I've unlocked towards my social anxiety, because then I just get to look at everybody as like, it's like, say you're in a story, and everybody's characters in that story, we're all connected through that story. Right. So I get to look at everybody around me as like very special, like we're all like brothers and sisters to some extent. And I feel like when I kind of had that realization, I felt like I did not feel any more social anxiety in New York. Like I felt just like very comfortable. And I actually really, really enjoyed looking at everybody and just kind of like observing them and being like, wow, man, like I'm like, and I just kept reminding myself, like, I'm just a background character in these motherfuckers' story. Like, it's so crazy. Like, somebody would say something to me, and I'd be like, I literally just put myself in their brain and be like, what would it be like to see this like light walk by? And then they just continue on in their life. Like, that's so fucking nuts. And I was just like,
crazy.
that is so tight, man. Like, I don't know. Like, it was really cool. I feel like it made me just like when you can, you know, bring that horizontal plane to like all these relationships and people around you and just understand that like, just because you like inhabit this like perception and this body and whatever, like in this story and this, you know, timeline that you're on, like it's not any more important than anybody else's. It makes everybody like just dope. I don't know. Honestly,
bro, that's like unlocking the next plane, bro. Like, yes, I would like to one day, you know, reach that where like while I'm talking to people, I'm aware that we are equal. Like that would be so sick. Just like
it's broken.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Wow, very cool.
No, I'm so glad I got this tattoo, bro. Like literally every time I look at my arm, I'm like, yes, remember that. Like,
oh, nice.
You guys are all equal. Like
that is an advantage of arm tattoos.
Awesome. It is one that is at least has some kind of utility. All the time because fuck, it is so crazy how much I forget this, even though it's on my arm. You know, that's how important it is. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, I learned one thing when I was in Chicago.
Okay.
I think I hate the club now. I think I'm just done. I think you know what I realized? I realized that there are some things that you cannot just remove from your brain, and oftentimes it is the environment. And if you really want to remove a certain thought or feeling, you just have to, at some point you cannot, like I love feeling like I'm in complete control of my mind, but some environments just bring out some thoughts. And I think the club just brings out parts of me and thoughts in me that it brings
out some thoughts or it brings out some thoughts.
It brings out thoughts of thoughts. Like I'm done. I just can't. Like it's just the people that you meet, just the whole thing is just bad. Like it just doesn't, it is just not aligned with what I want in my life at all. You know, like the only possible good part of it is dancing. But even then it's like, I would rather just do that in a class or like, you know, with some friends, like at a house party or at home. Like I think obviously I'll go back again because you know, what is American life without the club? But
it's so much, bro. Like going to the club is just so much. Like it is truly so much.
So like I'm in the exact like who actually has a like whose life is actually improved from a, you know, it's nobody. Like unless
21 to 24-year-olds.
No, but
I'm now out of that stage.
But like I'm saying, like even those people, I don't know if your life is better necessarily. You know, like you like look, you probably don't get what you're looking for, you know, and then you go home sad. Like it's the same cycle.
It's kind of, you know, it's probably more detrimental than not. It's like, you know, you go there, you waste a Friday. You don't waste a Friday night, but like, you know, you drink, so you're destroying your body. Then you wake up the next day.
You don't sleep. You sleep late.
You gave the whole day to last night. So like, you know, now your day's gone and like whatever. So yeah, it is an interesting phenomenon. You know, I feel like it is really fun for, I'm not even going to say socializing because no one socializes at clubs. So it's definitely not that. But this maybe illusion of socializing, whatever it is that you get from a club, it's cool for like a period. You know, I feel like it creates this like excitement to life, but once you do it enough, there's really just nothing there.
Yes, there's just nothing like that can come out of it that's so great that you're just like, wow, like that was what I want my night to look like, you know.
And that I think is just maturity, because I remember when I started going to the club, I would always think about like, why do older people not come here anymore? Like it doesn't really make sense to me. Like why do older people not want to get lit with their friends and like blah blah. Like imagine 40-year-olds would be like, hey, we're going out tonight, right? 50-year-olds like, we're going out tonight, right? And everybody's at the club like dance all day. That'd be lit as fuck. But I'm getting it, you know, and you know, as you are as well. Like, I'm like doing, I'm like, like this shit is just not down. Like I don't know, man.
Yeah.
It's exhausting as fuck. Like I would rather just have my energy go to other things. And I'm slowly just starting to hate alcohol, and not hating alcohol in the sense of like I'm hungover, I hate alcohol. Like hating alcohol in the sense of like I just really don't like the way it feels. I don't really like
who I am
much about it, you know?
Yeah.
Who I am when I'm on it. Like there's just not much I'm liking about it. So it's like club promotes that every single time, because I'm not gonna be in a club fucking sober. That shit's terrible. So yeah, I feel that, man.
And so I would say, to conclude this podcast, the main thing I learned from this trip is that I'm going to start thinking about life as a game. And I think everyone plays the game differently. And my goal is to play the game as best as I possibly can. And in my eyes, what that best means is like being able to actually enjoy and have fun in a sober way. Like you can, I mean, yes, there are aspects of, you know, being turned that are that play into it, but like being able to like enjoy life, but not only enjoy it for yourself, but make the people who ride with you enjoy it more because you're in their story. You know, like I want to be the type of person that makes life more enjoyable to live for everyone who I interact with. Like
huge, man.
that's I think, you know, what I learned from this trip. And it's like being present, not being on your phone when people are talking to you, like being actually like listening to them, giving ideas, being like, hey, let's play spike ball. Hey, let's play beer pong. Let's giving ideas for games, giving ideas for things to do, places to eat.
Contribution.
Just like being
like
able
actually contributing to the group and the setting that you're in. Like I honestly, I have this like weird annoyance with people sometimes because I feel like you have a duty, and maybe this is all in my fucking head, but I feel like when you're in a social situation, a social dynamic, like you have a duty to contribute. And I get very annoyed by people who just like feed off of others' contributions in social situations and never contribute themselves, you know?
Oh yeah.
Know.
Oh no. Yes. Like there are so many people who are like, oh, like where is it lit? Where is it lit? Where is it lit? It's never like wherever the fuck I am, it's gonna be lit. Like you just aren't the reason something is ever lit. You just like join other people's litness. Like it's just like
and then you go there and you complain about it and you're like, what the fuck did you do to make that better?
Like it's nothing. Yeah.
You're like, oh, these people are lame. Like, how did you help make that less lame? Like,
yeah.
You know? Like,
and I think the ultimate squad of friends would be people who like no matter where you go, it's just like we are enough for it to be fun, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's like
absolutely.
I think like
100%.
ideal in terms of like
that's one of the issues I feel like I had abandoned. You know, it's very different group dynamics, and I feel like certain people in that dynamic do think like that, and or other people in that dynamic needed other things like watching the Olympics for hours, or you know, doing this to like have some kind of entertainment. Like it became less about the people there and more about like other things that just became less enjoyable, you know? So I feel like that's definitely a very important thing to like groups, or like, you know, yeah, certain individuals are just kind of just there, just like waiting for other people to make contributions and ideas and just having, you know, avoiding responsibility to like contribute. And it's just like, I mean, you could do that. I guess you could ride the wave of every social group you're in and judge them and do this while not ever contributing yourself. But it's just like, at the end of the day, like, yeah, you're just not a very functional person in social groups, you know? And
yeah,
that has real world implications and consequences as to your value in social groups.
Yes, 100%.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, man, apart from that, I would say, you know, one, looking in the future, I think I just realized like how free I am. You know, I'm
Absolutely,
already
bro.
making plans for, you know, this summer where I want to travel. I want to work on a farm. I think it would be kind of cool.
Yeah?
Yeah. Like I think
Where to?
Anywhere. The whole world has farms. Like, you know, like I don't know.
Bro,
like,
honestly, hit me up.
Yeah. Like there's just so much
I'd be very down.
do. Yeah.
I'm very down.
It would be it would be so crazy. Like, and that's what I'm saying.
We'd go nuts on a farm. Yeah, that'd be so fucking lit. That would be so fucking us using our hands and like just doing shit like every day, like being a native. Like that sounds so crazy.
Yeah,
but I'm so down.
It's all just in our hands, you know. So we have to just really empower ourselves and the people around us to just really go live life. You know, this fire Charles is his name Bukowski.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote a poem. It was so fire. He's like, I have advice for all young men. He was like, go do this, grow your beard out, you know, catch a fish, slide down your like something. It was just all crazy stuff. The last line, but just please don't write poetry. I was like, that's hard. I was like, that's so hard. It was just like, just go live life, you know? Like I feel like there's a certain level of like simpness and like just like screw it all, you know, just like go like do shit. Like that's the only cure to all of this other stuff that we're talking about. It's just doing stuff. Like the best cure to existentialism is just do stuff, you know? Like if you're like surfing, like you're not thinking about what is the purpose of life, you know? Like if you're just catching that perfect wave, like you just, you know, or any that flow state, anything you do, you're not thinking about why am I here, you know? You're just here.
Absolutely. Yeah. It you know, makes me think about was it a Marcus Aurelius quote that just says something like, you know, death whispers in my ear, like go live because I'm coming. And it's just like, that's literally it. Like, yeah, you can sit there all day, like writing about like death's coming. Like, oh shit, that's crazy. Or you can just go fucking live because it's coming either way, dog. Like, you know, I saw another quote by like fucking someone, and it was just like, no amount of anxiety about anything has ever actually like solved anxiety. Like it never actually, like, it doesn't really like change anything, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so, you know, you already hear, folks, go live your life, go fucking travel across the country with the fucking homie, go learn about people, go live in the woods. You can literally do it. And as you were saying last time we talked, one of the craziest realizations that you had is that dead ass, you can pack up at any fucking time and go live anywhere, whenever the fuck you want, and just start over. Like, you always have the freedom to do that. True.
Yeah. And the only person that stops us from doing anything is really us. So that's just, you know, that's honestly if there's one thing, if I was to die, I'd want someone to remember me as, it would be that. Like, anything you set your mind to, you can do, you know?
Absolutely. And if there's a fucking problem in your life, look in the fucking mirror, because that's what's going to solve it.
Yep. All right, man.
Well,
I'm excited.
Good time to get back and, you know, get a little bit more consistent and, you know, get a little bit better each podcast.
Yes, sir. Thanks for everything.
All right. Well, see y'all next time. Don't die.
Yes, please. Stop.